Hey there everyone, I'm Jake James Lugo and welcome to Gamers with Gains. Now these are going to be my overall thoughts on the Suicide Squad movie that just came out recently. I went to my local Regal theater to catch the movie late last night, and overall I had a bunch of different opinions about it that I wanted to bring to you guys today. Now, full spoiler warning at the beginning of this video, if you have not seen Suicide Squad yet, you may want to hold off on watching this vlog, but if you've already seen the movie, or if you don't care about the movie being spoiled for you, go ahead, watch away. We're going to get into most of some of the stuff that's happened in Suicide Squad and the reception of it from everybody else on the internet. So, overall, what do I think about Suicide Squad? You see, a lot of people are divided on this movie. Some people really like it and really think that it's a big step up over Batman v Superman, and some other people actually think it's a really huge detriment to DC and Warner Brothers, thinking that it's just as bad, if not worse, than Suicide Squad. A lot of people are very divided on this. So where do I stand on Suicide Squad as a film? Overall, I felt the film wasn't that great. It had some enjoyable parts to it, but there was a lot of inconsistencies, some things I had little issues with, some things and some characters that I felt were a little bit annoying, and overall it just wasn't really a good put together film. So, what are some of the things that I disliked about it? Okay, well, before I even get to a lot of the big ones there, what are some of the things I did like about the film? I thought that some of the action was pretty interesting. I thought that there were some good action sequences, despite some of my little issues that popped up here and there. Most of the characters that do appear in the film do look like their comic counterparts, or at least, close enough to them to make sense within this DC cinematic universe. Again, Harley Quinn by Margaret Robbie, that she was playing that character, she looked the part. There is even kind of like a little nod in there to an Alex Ross painting, which I thought was pretty cool, especially with it involving Jared Leto's Joker. Jared Leto's Joker, overall, I think, for this type of movie universe, or this cinematic universe, he looks the part and he looks like he makes sense being in that world, but I'll get to more about him a little bit later. Same thing with Deadshot. Will Smith, I think, did a good job as far as the look and it being presented as Deadshot and his outfit and the way he kind of did things all over the place. Captain Boomerang, I felt, was a little bit more bland. Slipknot was hardly ever in it, as well as also Killer Croc, I felt like could have been bigger. They could have gone a guy that I felt was a much more bigger guy, or bigger dude, bodybuilder or something, because he looked more fat than he did look intimidating to me. Besides that, El Diablo, I felt like, again, I don't know much about El Diablo as a character from the comics, but I guess he kind of makes sense of with everything that was happening. Katana, I felt, was the one that actually looked the best out of the entire Suicide Squad grouping. I felt like she looked the most closest to her comic counterpart, as well as also looking a little bit more believable, even though her outfit is kind of a little bit, outlandish in comparison to everybody else. That's a little bit more grounded in reality. Amanda Waller, I thought, was a good character. I thought that she kind of made, look or acted a little bit similar to her comic/cartoon counterpart for the character. I thought that made sense. There have been a lot of different interpretations about, of Amanda Waller, but overall I thought she was good, and again, she made sense within the context of this world. Now, as far as everything else that I actually liked, there really isn't much to go on. Again, I mentioned the action sequences before. I mentioned that the context where it kind of continues right after Batman v Superman. Again, we're kind of still within the fallout of that actual movie. But let me get into the stuff that you guys really want to hear about and what I actually disliked about the movie. There's a lot, so I'm going to kind of, try to condense it as much as I can without having to go overboard on a long vlog. One of the biggest things that I thought was really kind of bad for this movie was its inconsistencies. There's a lot of pacing issues where certain things aren't really explained outright, or at least they're glanced over and not giving you enough time to digest them. But there's also open contradictions to some of the stuff that happens towards the later half of the movie. At some point during the movie, towards the third or fourth final act of the film, they actually get into this huge fight. The Suicide Squad gets into this huge fight with all these different monsters or creatures. It's basically people that have been possessed by the Enchantress. Okay, she's the main villain out of this film. She starts off as part of the Suicide Squad, but then she kind of turns on everybody else and starts this big cataclysmic event for the entire world. And she kind of grabs people and kind of possesses them with her magic to turn them into what's called the Mudmen. The Mudmen just look like just a bunch of random human beings that have all these eyes and crazy looking kind of monstrous designs to them. So they're fighting them in again, in the city. I think it's Metro City, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the cities in the DC universe that's the home to Hawkman and Hawkgirl. So they're fighting them, and in the movie they outright say that these things cannot be killed by bullets. They can't be killed by headshots or anything of the sort. Yet shortly afterwards, like a scene or two right afterwards, the Suicide Squad is pretty much killing all the different Mutant Men with headshots and such. Deadshot is going crazy on people, just outright just blowing people away. Margaret Robbie as Harley Quinn is taking her gun and just shooting these people and actually hitting them with the bat. They're killing them just like, again, easily, like if they were just cannon fodder. And then the scene right after that, they go back to the same thing, saying that these things can't be killed like that. It makes no sense. It openly contradicts right at the very next second of what's supposed to be happening in the plot, or what's supposed to be happening in the story of the movie. And it just was like, you know, how are you going to actually miss something like that? It seems like something was missing on the cutting room floor that kind of explained, like, oh, here we go. Maybe they gave them like some special bullets, or they did something to the Mutant Men that was actually there to actually make them more vulnerable to the attacks from the Suicide Squad. Otherwise, again, you're just left with stuff that's just like, you know, saying one thing and then totally flipping it on its head on the next thing and then going right back to it to make them more of a threat. I just didn't get why that was. It just was weird to me. Now, some of the other stuff that I thought was a little bit annoying, even though they for a point, handled it with a little bit of taste, was the flashbacks for each character or each member of the Suicide Squad. There's some of them that actually were pretty good. Like, I thought that Deadshot's, or was it quote-unquote origin, or his flashback, made some sense. Again, it was the cameo with Batman and Ben Affleck as Batman/Bruce Wayne. That was kind of cool to an extent. Some of the other ones, like Margaret Robbie as the Joker, I felt it lingered a little bit too long. Like, they went to it multiple times, actually. They did one where she actually, the first time she meets the Joker, and then, like, you know, they're having a conversation in this asylum where she's, like, talking to him as his doctor. Then he says, like, I need machine guns. And then the next scene, like, there's all these dudes that just show up in the place with machine guns. It's like, wait a second. How did Harley Quinn actually get all those dudes with a bunch of guns to shoot up the place and free the Joker? It's just like, you know, there was something missing there. And then they go back to the flashback later on where they really try to build her up, where she actually goes into the acid pool. Like, she's completely just doing everything for the Joker like that. She's infatuated with him. There seems like there's some missing parts there that are probably like have been shot, but just were cut out for time's sake. And I feel like, again, we might get an extended cut that actually will explain some of the things in there. There were other ones that were kind of like, you know, play with here and there. Killer Croc was another one that was really glanced over. For whatever reason, he's a Batman villain, and Batman never catches him in this movie. Like, Deadshot gets caught, Harley Quinn gets caught by Batman, Captain Boomerang actually gets caught by the Flash. There's a Flash cameo in this, which is really brief. Really quickly. He's in full costume and everything. He gets caught by the Flash, but Killer Croc kind of just gets caught by the government and such. And I feel like, again, why isn't Batman actually helping the government, or why isn't Batman actually catching Killer Croc and handing him over to the GCPD, so that way the government can get him that way? It just, again, felt like something was missing there, or something didn't make any sense, or it could have been handled a little bit better. The one that I felt that wasn't earned at all, or pretty much came out of left field and really didn't offer any sort of origin or backstory, was Katana. Even though I thought Katana was kind of cool in the way that she looked and the way that she acted with the rest of the Suicide Squad, she speaks only really Japanese, and then one brief second she talks English, which was really weird. But her flashback involves her killing a bunch of Yakuza, and I guess one person that was involved with the death of her husband, but they never actually show that. They just talk about it a little bit, and her flashback, again, she just kills a couple guys, talks to this one dude, says that he watched her husband die, and then that's it. It just didn't feel earned, and it felt just forced in there because they needed an extra flashback for one of the characters that was part of the group. Same thing with Captain Boomerang. Even though I thought the Flash, cameo was pretty cool, El Diablo was kind of, you know, hinted at, and then they kind of show a little bit of that later on, which seems more like a dream sequence. Wasn't handled that great. It was kind of whatever. Same thing with the Enchantress. Again, the Enchantress is built up like the villain, you know, or at least the main bad guy of the entire film, which she ends up becoming. But I feel like, again, that wasn't really earned. I mean, they show the person, the woman that actually goes there, she opens up this thing and she becomes the Enchantress because it's some sort of spirit, you know, that takes over her body, and every time she says her name, she appears and then it flips over and stuff. It gets really weird and such. But I didn't really care about her as a person or care about her as a villain, and she just ended up just flipping on, the rest of the squad and becoming bad and getting her brother, who they never really explain who her brother is. It's just some sort of other, like, deity that humans worshipped as a god back in the day, and now she's just going to work with her to take over the world. It just felt rushed, it felt forced, and it came out of left field overall. Now, a couple of the other things that I thought were a little bit annoying about this film, specifically Harley Quinn's accent. Now, don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of Harley Quinn fans out there, and a lot of people are praising Margaret Robbie for her performance in this movie as Harley Quinn. I felt like her accent was inconsistent at a couple of different times throughout the movie, even scenes when she's in it and it cuts to, like, maybe, like, you know, a different perspective or a different point of view of the same scene. Her accent changes, like, just completely, like, she sounds like really harsh, like, you know, a Brooklyn style accent or New York style accent, that real harsh, talking kind of like this type of thing, and then she just flips and just starts talking like a little bit different with her voice and the way her mannerisms are, and then goes back to another way. Some people might say that's just her type of, you know, being crazy or anything like that, or just acting really outlandish and stuff, but I felt like maybe it was different takes of the movie that would just cut in the weirdest, most wrong way that did not feel consistent throughout when she was speaking her dialogue. This mostly happens during the times like later in the movie when she's together with the Suicide Squad and they're going through all the craziness that's happening downtown in the city area before the final battle, and in the flashbacks is a little bit much more handled better, but during those scenes like that, it just felt like some takes were spliced together and they just did not match up right. It was clear as day to me every time that I heard her speak, and I was like, wow, like there's something about this feels wrong, or something about this feels off. And even with my friend, I went with a friend of mine to actually go see the movie, and he was just saying the same thing. He was like, what is with her voice? Like, what's with her accent? Like, she kind of can't decide how she's gonna talk and stuff. I'm like, maybe it was just on the cutting room floor. Maybe they were just spicing scenes together and such. And he was like, yeah, maybe. You know, who knows? But it just did not come off right whatsoever. Now let's talk about Jared Leto's Joker. A lot of people have been really praising Jared Leto's Joker, and for the most part, I thought he did an interesting job. Again, being in the context of this DC cinematic universe, this seems like a new and interesting interpretation of the Joker. I wish that the Joker was more in the movie. I felt like that the scale, which is going to relate to one of the other big issues I have in this movie, the scale of the conflict I felt was too big. I felt that because the Enchantress is having this big cataclysmic event that supposedly is going to destroy all the machines in the world and take over the entire world, over the world of humans and stuff, why wasn't the Justice League, or at least, you know, members of the Justice League like Batman and the Flash and even Wonder Woman, why weren't they at this actual happening? I felt like if the conflict was done a little bit much more on a smaller scale, where the Joker was the actual villain, where it was Task Force X, you know, Suicide Squad actually going to get the Joker or stop him from doing something, it would have been a much better movie. It would have been better paced. It would have made a lot more sense contextually wise in the DC cinematic universe. Because the way that the Enchantress goes about actually conquering the city, destroying all these machines, having this magical lightning go and destroy all these different types of big secret bases and giant ships that are part of the government, or again, scattered throughout the entirety of the world. I feel like, you know, in that cinematic universe, Batman would have taken notice, the Flash would have taken notice since he makes an appearance in this, and Wonder Woman, wherever she might have been during this film, would have taken notice of this, and they would have done something about it. It just seems like, again, you know, they wanted to really build up the Suicide Squad, and I guess they really wanted to go big as far as like the scale of the conflicts with the DC cinematic universe, that they kind of went a little bit too chaotic here, or they went a little bit too big for their bridges here. Again, I wanted it to be a little bit smaller. I felt like the way that they handled the Suicide Squad in the, Assault on Arkham cartoon movie, or the animated movie with Batman, the Joker, and the Suicide Squad, I felt that was a better handling of these characters than what they did in this movie here. Again, going back to the Joker, I felt like, you know, his mannerisms, there was kind of like, you know, instances where he came off really weird in like the worst way possible. It wasn't where he was weird, where he was like enthralling, where he was kind of like, you know, really, you know, crazy, or like he was really vicious on people, because he has some of those moments. But then there are other moments where it just comes off as like awkward. You know, there's a scene where he's in a club and they actually get the rapper Common to actually talk to him, and the Joker decides to give Harley Quinn to him, and Common's like, well, I'm not going to touch your woman because I don't think that's such a great thing. I don't want to hook up with her. And the Joker gets offended and just shoots him. Like, granted, I get the idea they're trying to build up the Joker as a badass. They're trying to make him like a real gangster. He comes off more as like a gangster, like a thug, more so than he does as like a comic villain, more so than he does as like the quote-unquote clown prince of crime here. He comes more as like a generalized thug that just is really rich. He has a lot of money, he has a lot of people influencing, and comes off like much more as like a charismatic, you know, crazy person in that regard, but not in the sense that what we've seen before. This is not Jared Leto. This is not Heath Ledger's Joker. This isn't Jack Nicholson. This isn't Cesar Romero. This is a totally different Joker for this type of generation, for this type of cinematic universe for the DC comics. And so again, there was also a couple other things. He's really obsessed with Harley Quinn. Like, he's much more madly in love with Harley Quinn than there have been with previous Joker iterations. The Joker in the past has more kind of like, you know, used Harley Quinn. He has her around, but at the moment's notice, he'll like throw her away. And there is a moment like that, I feel like, in the film when Batman is actually chasing them. But for the most part, he's really obsessed with Harley Quinn, and he really loves her a lot more so than previous iterations of the Joker, which I'm okay with. I actually love seeing Harley Quinn and Joker together on screen and actually interacting and doing stuff. stuff, and I wish there was more of that. I also wish that the Joker actually interacted with the rest of the Suicide Squad a little bit more so, because every time he appears, he never really talks or never really interacts with the Suicide Squad team, just more so Harley Quinn. And then again, something happens where he just goes away for like the remainder of the film. He's not in it for very long. He shows up again at the very end, and it kind of wraps things up, and I guess sets it up for what might be the Batman movie later on, the solo Batman film. But I feel like he should have been in it a little bit more. He actually should have been in it, the main villain for me. If I really had my choice and my way to actually make this film better, he should have been the main villain. It should have been Task Force X or the Suicide Squad going after him, rather than going after the Enchantress and her big cataclysmic event for the world. So, any other, like, you know, small little thoughts I could bring to you guys? Again, there was one scene that I thought was really out of character for Amanda Waller. And a lot of people have brought this up and saying that she's more of a badass and such, but I didn't think so. There's a scene where it's towards the end of the film, where Amanda Waller is, like, you know, destroying all these documents with a bunch of agents and stuff, and both Will Smith's Deadshot and Rick Flag go there, they start talking to her and stuff. The rest of the Suicide Squad is outside the door and such. And after they finish destroying a bunch of documents, Amanda Waller kills all three of the agents except for Rick Flag and Deadshot there, and saying that, you know, her reasoning is that they weren't cleared for any of the information that was there. I felt that was way out of character for Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller is a badass. She's a really, you know, intimidating and kind of like, you know, powerful human being. Again, a woman that's really in charge of a lot of the people that are around her in the government, but she wouldn't expend people like that so easily. You know, she's a woman of resources. She's a woman about getting things done, and she's very conniving in the way that she does stuff, but she's not so much of a cold-hearted bitch killer as much as they tried to make her out to be in this film. I felt like it was very unneeded to kill those three individuals like that. She would have been, my interpretation or some of the other interpretations of Amanda Waller that I've seen, again, between the comics, between Batman the Animated Series, between some of the shows like Arrow and such, she would have had them live and had them like move some stuff over to another spot, or just go with another team, or at least send all those people to desk jobs, you know, and have all this other stuff. But I don't think she would outright kill them like that. It didn't seem like enough of a reason to kill those three people. It just felt very out of character for her overall. Now, one other thing I want to mention before I wrap up this vlog about Suicide Squad is the music. The music, the way that the placement of the music is in the entire film is very terrible. I think poor choice in the way that the music was handled. Don't get me wrong, the tracks that they use, they're great songs. I thought there were some pretty awesome ones. They even used the track, I think it's Bohemian Rhapsody, that they used in the trailer. They actually have that towards the end of the film. But like the placement of some of the music during certain sections when they're introducing all the characters, and when there's actual some action sequences, and even when there's just like, you know, some of the Suicide Squad members just hanging around, just sitting around doing their thing and such, the music felt obnoxious. This was the same problem that I had with Batman v Superman, and especially the Wonder Woman theme. The Wonder Woman theme, a musical piece of itself, the track itself, is not bad. Where they used it in the film and where they placed it, you know, when Batman is sitting in the back cave just looking at the, looking at the pictures and such, it completely just comes out of nowhere, and it's like obnoxiously like loud all up in your face like that. And I felt the same thing was happening here in Suicide Squad. Somebody has to get a different person over there that's choosing the different soundtrack and doing the mixing for these DC animated movies, because I feel like the music is just like either super obnoxious, or there's no music and it's not around as much, or it holds no relevance to what's happening in the context of the film. They really need to make better decisions with this. Maybe that was due for the actual people that were cutting the film, because I know there's two cuts of Suicide Squad. There's the one that we saw in theaters now, but there's also another one that David Ayer, the director of the film, actually has that supposedly is completely different. It has a different tone. It's handled a lot more differently than the one that I actually saw. Maybe there's different, you know, musical placement for that, or different selections of music tracks for that version of the film, but what I got here, I thought that was really bad. It was really terrible. Just was not handled correctly. Was not handled in a much more better way that I was expecting it to be done, especially after what happened with Batman v Superman. So overall, okay, despite what a lot of people might think or whatnot, I felt that Suicide Squad was a really bad film. I thought that there were some enjoyable moments to it, but I didn't think it was another push or a positive push after Batman v Superman. And I think that this is really going to spook Warner Brothers into handling their films, especially Wonder Woman and the Justice League, and even the solo Batman film that's coming right after. They're going to handle them hopefully a little bit different, because that's two movies now, arguably three for some people if you didn't like Man of Steel, that really were kind of, you know, critical. They underwhelmed critically with reviewers out there in different outlets and such. It might make money. I know a lot of people are going to go see this movie and such, and again, a lot of people on the internet are going to be very split about Suicide Squad, but for me, it just didn't do it for me overall. So anyway guys, those are my thoughts on Suicide Squad. Leave me a comment down below in the comment section. Tell me what you guys think about Suicide Squad as a movie. If you liked it, if you disliked it, some of your favorite characters, some of your least favorite characters, or what you hope for what's next for the DC animated universe. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the Gamers with Games channel for all my videos related to gaming, movies, stronger living, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. And do not forget that I actually stream every single day on Twitch TV between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, playing a variety of different video games. I'm usually hanging out with the chat there. We get a whole bunch of cool discussion going on. Last night when I got back from the film, I was actually streaming. I was talking about my off-the-cuff thoughts on Suicide Squad immediately when I got back from the theater. And we were playing a little bit of Pokken Tournament as well. But we've been playing Pokken, we've been playing Overwatch, I've been playing some new games I've been getting for review. Definitely come hang out with us on Twitch. Again, links to all that stuff is going to be in the description box below. I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out, stay epic everybody.